everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is, yes, Sarah, Patron Hangout number 209. Yes, we are. Yeah, it's the fourth year of my hangouts, and they're one a week. So do the math. Yeah, we're at 209. So I'm excited that everybody is here in the chat room, especially you, Sarah, since I anybody who was here that day said, "Where's Sarah? Where's Sarah?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I had to block Sarah because some inappropriate behavior." It wasn't Sarah, it was somebody else. And I'm like, what? My brain just mixed two names up. And so I was like, oh my God. Oh. So I wrote my apology to Sarah and asked her not to send a hitman after me, but I'm not sure. Luckily, Sarah has a really great sense of humor. Snort. No hitman. Okay, I'll take off the vest. I felt so bad though. Oh, you forget. I'm so glad you forgave me. It's so weird because Sarah, we've been talking for so long. I obviously know who you are, and I have no idea. I guess it's because you were gone for a while. You were busy, and then when they said, "Where is she at?" I kept thought of the other person that was no longer here in the chat room, and I don't know, just lost my mind. So my apologies. Anyway. I'm glad you're back, Sarah. We will miss you if you weren't. Hi, Lane. How are you? Okay, so anyway, on to the show. Yeah. Oh, God. I'll try not to screw that up again. Anyway, I know everybody's going to ask about the cat. Where's my cat picture? My cat picture's missing. No, oh, there he is. There's the cat. So this is where he came in and I was in the kitchen and he came in to get his food and I forgot to put it out. So he got partway there and he looked confused. And so I said, "I'm going to get you your food." And he went and hid under the table. And then I did get his food. And oddly enough, he didn't run out the cat door. And so then I got over here on the floor and put his food down. And he came over and licked the food off my hand like usual and ate his food. And so I got a nice picture of him. So there he is underneath my table. So that's really cool. So yeah, and so he's still doing his cat thing, his feral cat thing. He's, still gives me that look after he finishes eating. Goes, "Okay, I'm done. I'm out of here now." We're done. I got what I want. So, yeah, he's so sweet. Yeah, so curmudgeonly. Yes, he is. He just has that stink eye thing. He's where he goes, like, leave me alone now. So. Hi, Frida. Yeah, sweet. I wouldn't call him sweet, but he is my challenge, shall we say? Yes, cats will be psychopaths. They will be, and I've had many of those, just like little psychopaths in my life. I have. And speaking of psychopaths, I want to point out. Well, I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I want to point this out first. So hold on a second. Let me find it. There is a story, and I want to read you this story. So this is got 500,000 views on YouTube, and this story is this woman's name. The blonde woman sitting there is Virginia Hartwell. She refused to move from an airplane seat assigned to a black CEO named Devin Mitchell, the guy standing there. According to the story, a Washington Post journalist named Elena Vasquez witnessed and documented the incident, and flight attendant Sarah Chen sided with Hartwell, the woman, without properly checking the tickets. Mitchell then used his CEO app, sent an order to ground the plane, and revealed himself as the founder of both an air travel technology company and, more importantly, the majority owner of the airline. Totally fake. The whole thing is totally fake. And what's interesting, if you remember, I did a thing on true crime a while back. That's True Crime Channel. And they always showed three pictures, kind of like I always do. I have the three pictures. And they show like a guy and a woman and then the other person. And they'll say like husband and wife, they've been married for 7 years. And then she has an affair with her stepson, and then then the husband kills her or whatever. Some kind of sick story. And I'm like, when I first saw it, I'm like, this is garbage. And I looked up they did give like an area, like a town, and there's no news anywhere in the media about this story. I'm like, if this actually happened, there would be actually some media, and but they in those true crime ones, they tend to only use the first names. What's interesting in this complete fabrication is they're using full names. I mean, they're actually saying here, look what they're saying. Washington Post journalist Elena Vasquez, who doesn't exist. This thing is an entire AI thing. So you see it's a whole video of what's going on the plane, and but the voice is clearly AI. All the type of the things that is said is off. Everything they say just is off. It isn't normal the way a person would normally talk about a situation like this. It's off. And it's meant to stir up people and get them, oh my God, that's just terrible. This is racism, blah, blah, blah. And they pick topics that will enrage people. It's kind of like, it's a rage bait, essentially. But they're using full names, which is interesting to me. Like if I were the Washington Post, I would sue this company for claiming that one of our journalists was involved in that when the journalist didn't even exist. But they said, I don't know where these companies come out of that do these AI things, but they are massive amounts of them are now on YouTube, and they are making YouTube a crap load of money. And this is the kind of thing that should be shut down by YouTube. And this is the kind of things that channels like me, my channel, compete against. And other people, like expert channels, which have something useful to offer, we're competing against AI. And the algorithm is grabbing the AI things and pushing them to your homepage. So you say, oh, look at this. What is this? They don't push Pat Brown. They push this junk. And it's happening to a lot of different content creators. So not something new. I mean, it is something new, but not just for me. It's for everybody. But I just want to warn you, be careful of what you believe. Because some of these things, this one I didn't think was, I thought this was quite obvious one. But if you look at the comments on these kind of things, you will see that a whole bunch of people are falling for it. And they are outraged, absolutely outraged. And another kind of rage bait you'll see these days is food rage bait, where they put together like the worst garbage in a pan you've ever seen. And then everybody goes berserk going, oh my God, I would never eat that junk. And they make a lot of money just for people being enraged, and they do it on purpose. They actually create something to piss you off. This is called entertainment. And it's unfortunate that people want to be entertained with rage bait instead of something a little bit more useful. It's crazy stuff. So, yeah, it's you can't believe anything anymore. This is absolutely true. And while you're on that thought, just 1 second, folks, I have to slip away because I just have aura, like a pre migraine thing. I'm going to grab Excedrin and I'll be right back. Because it's beginning to block my vision. So I'll be right back. Hello. Oh my God. Well, this is I've had a problem in the last couple of days, and so my vision, you get these like sparkly thingies that block out your vision. It's charming. So I'm going to take that, drink a whole pile of water. No, not planning to kill myself here. Oh. Okay. Hopefully that'll start working. um, what did Brian Koberger do? I know I try to stay away from Brian Koberger these days because I don't really care. But tell me what it is. Um, it's just a new low in society. People are either bored or getting dumber. And this is a good question, about that. It really is. Um, Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm having trouble clicking now because you can't even move your head. Well, let's see what happens here. Okay. Anyway. Oh, speaking of be careful what you say online. I just had I've had 2 videos I put up where somebody in the YouTube community, I think this is being done on purpose, where they tell YouTube that this creator is thinking of harming herself. So I get this email saying, we've had a concern about you wanting to harm yourself. And so if you need help, here's the hotline. And I'm like, who's doing this? Because I thought maybe somebody was mistaking what I put up, but apparently there's a new kind of troll. And instead of trolling you in the comments, they go to YouTube and say, you're trying to do yourself in. And then YouTube sends you this concern. Crazy stuff. So, but I just thought that was an interesting thing. Let's go to the issue of what is going on with people today, and are they bored? And I think we're seeing a level of extremism. And I was sent this article. Speaking of extremism, and I think a lot of it is being perpetrated by the internet and by the fact, in my opinion, that people don't have enough useful things to do. Because when you needed to do things to survive, if you had to go out and farm, if you had to go out and get your food somehow, go out and hunt, if you had to actually cook, you know what that thing is called, cooking. It's not going DoorDash, and it's not putting something in the microwave and going. It's actually cooking food. And you remember when people used to sew clothes? Yes, because my mother sewed all her own clothes because it was expensive to buy pre-done clothes, and so mothers used to sew. And now it's kind of funny. My granddaughter just started junior high. She's 6th grade, and instead of home ec, they know no kid is going to just want to learn how to sew in home ec just to make. Oh, I made a nightgown when I was in home ec. Nobody wants to do that anymore. So they make it a sewing fashion thing where you're going to design fashion stuff. And so they have this project, which my granddaughter told me about. She's very excited about it. She says, at the end of the year, we're going to have Project Runaway. And I'm like, Project Runaway? I don't think they should be promoting that project. She didn't quite get that one right. But yes, they're going to have Project Runaway. But but there's, what do you do? What do you do when you don't need to cook, you don't need to sew, you don't need to farm, you don't need to build your furniture, you don't need to, and you think of Little House on the Prairie, that Dad had to build a house, Mom had to help do all the things she had to do and to keep the household going. I mean, they were busy, and the kids had to help out. Now people are just like, I got nothing to do. They're on their phone trying to be entertained. And this, I think, is becoming a massive problem. What about Maslow's hierarchy of needs? You can't self-actualize. You're preoccupied with merely meeting your basic needs. Okay, well, I think there is. This is true. I mean, there's a point where if you can barely survive because your basic needs have to be met. True, you don't create a lot. That's true. But if you get to the point where if you get to this good point where you have enough free time to create, this is great. But if you have too much time, then I don't know that people are being so creative, or they're being creative in a way that's quite scary, and they're getting into a lot of extremism. And I think the extremism thing is really frightening. I learned a new word in this for society. I had never heard this word before. I have now learned it. It's called edgelord. An edgelord is someone typically on the internet who tries to impress or shock by posting exaggerated opinions, extremist views of any sort, something just way past normal, way not even just edgy, but not just slightly edgy, but edgelords, I guess, almost off the cliff. And this, people get bored with regular stuff, so they keep reaching for more and more and more. And so we have had this extremism with kids who, for example, want to kill somebody to see what it's like to kill. I mean, how, that's just not normal. That's not normal. And so doing these things where it's like regular life has become boring even as a child or a teenager, and that's really, really frightening. And of course for a lot of adults as well. So it's not too cool. And that is true. Sensationalism does sell because people they're feeling a need for sensationalism instead of learning or whatever else. Yes, edgelord, edgelord, Carissa. It's a new word for you, edgelord. And here's an example of one of the new edgelords, which I came across. This woman, her name is, what is her name? I had her name here. Her name is, wait a minute, I've lost it. Oh, here we go. Kanika Batra. Basically, she calls herself Kanika Batra. And she says, I am a sociopath. She pushes being that she is a sociopath. She is a psychopath. And she does say this at one point, which I thought was funny. She says, you can trust me, because I'm a sociopath. What? The person says, craziest sentence I heard today. Believe me, I'm a sociopath. But she's on TikTok with 250,000 followers, and God knows where else she is. She was a beauty queen at one point. Let's see what she was. She says she's a diagnosed sociopath, reveals what it's really like being in a relationship with one. So she's helping you understand how psychopaths / sociopaths function, and how you deal with those kind of people. And some of what she says is actually quite interesting, which I thought was fascinating in the sense that she's not incorrect about many things. And now I don't know why she's not incorrect. It could be because she studied a lot and is pretending to be a psychopath in order to be that edgelord, so that you want to go listen to her because she's a psychopath, and then she's going to teach you these cool things. Whereas if Pat Brown tells you these things, it's not nearly as exciting as getting it straight from the psychopath's mouth, right? So, like let's say an example. She said, she's basically good at love bombing. So when she meets people, she will just agree with them and be really fascinated by them and listen to everything they have to say. And people then think she's really nice and want to know her more, because of course, when somebody pays attention to you, you really like that. Then she goes, of course, I don't care about you at all, actually. So then she tells you the truth, which is at some point you're going to be screwed, because, as I've always said, for a psychopath, you're either useful or in the way. So as long as you're useful, they will manipulate you in ways that work. And so they're not going to do things right away that don't work, because then what's the point? But of course, she's talking about a sociopath that has a reasonable amount of education and all this. Now, she says she was diagnosed as one, but we have no idea that that's true. She said, let me see what it says here. She says one of the things that made her very successful was not being afraid to lose someone at any point. So in other words, she doesn't worry about the other person's feelings, or she's not going to get, she can dump people and then replace them easily because they're just things. She said, she goes, I feel like I don't get enough credit for sitting there and listening to people's problems. It has literally nothing to do with me, and I'm investing in it, and nobody seems to be giving me gratitude for that. I thought that was kind of amusing. And she said, charisma is pretty easy to come by when you don't have a moral compass, adding that she just says what people want to hear. And she is correct about that. I will say she's correct. Let's say, she says all her relationships are transactional. Yes, you're either useful or you're in the way. She's right about that. And if she's going on a date, she tends to view the other person as an object. And once they start to humanize themselves, she gets bored and gets rid of them. In other words, she doesn't really want to deal with a person. Let's see what else she says. blah, 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 blah. She does some other things. Anyway, she apparently she probably won a beauty contest and done a bunch of other things. She wrote a terrible book. Now, the question is she a psychopath? Or is she pretending to be a psychopath? Or is she a narcissist pretending to be a psychopath? But I think she's an edgelord because she has found a way to have people come to what they think is the far end of something, which would be as far as personality disorders goes, it would be psychopathy. And so people are watching her TikTok and loving it. Again, if I did the same thing and talked about that, I would probably have not nearly the same amount of people because it's much more interesting to get it straight from a psychopath. It's brilliant marketing, I'll say that. So it's just interesting. But that's a good point, Cauliflower. She uses a lot of words that sound like definitions and not how someone would describe themselves. For the most part, psychopaths they're not concerned with what other people think of them, and they don't really want to explain themselves. So although some of her definitions are correct, I wonder that she's really a psychopath. I think she might be highly narcissistic. That I believe. And there's that kind of space in between, which when it gets to the very end, which she is describing, then you would be psychopathic. And they aren't very insightful. Not usually. But that's a good point, Joanna says, but society keeps elevating and rewarding the sociopaths. Why, when the majority of us are kind and decent people? Because they're more exciting. Why does everybody want everything about Brian Koberger? Brian Koberger has been found guilty. I mean, he's confessed to the crime. It's over. There's going to be no trial. It's done. I personally want to know zero about this guy. But yet, every day I see people like myself's profiles are putting all that information out there because people eat it up. They're still fascinated. They want to know more and more and more about this creep. I won't put that information out there. I just won't, because I feel like that's what I'm doing, as I am feeding this kind of obsession with creepiness. And I mean, it's one thing to understand it and learn about it. It's another thing to obsess and make that, that bothers me. And I understand it's very alluring, which is exactly why it makes money. Makes a lot of money. So, but I also want to point out, I find this kind of funny, but somebody did this very, very long article, very academic article called "There's No Such Thing as a Psychopath." And it's by a woman named Lily Franks. And she says, there is no such thing as a psychopath. That sentence is provocative, but it's also completely true in a completely uninteresting way. The official definitions for medical terms in America are recorded in the Diagnostic Standard Manual, or DSM. There is no diagnosis in the DSM for psychopathy. They have antisocial personality disorder, but not psychopathy. This is true. There is no, at this point in time, the Psychiatric Association does not have psychopathy or sociopathy as part of a diagnosis. That is true. But in my opinion, antisocial personality disorder basically is the same damn thing. So, the DSM, whatever they're on, I think maybe 526. Every so often they change a lot of stuff and redefine. And some of it's to do better. But sometimes it just becomes kind of a pissing match between psychiatrists and definition people. And in the long run, one of the most important things about psychiatric definitions is, can you treat? One of the problems they have with what would be termed psychopath, which was brought to us by Robert Hare and a number of other people who have studied psychopathy, is that it's not treatable. If it's not treatable, you don't make money off of it. It's a simple fact. You don't make money off of it. And so in the criminal mind, Stanton Salmon, my favorite psychologist, who worked at St. Elizabeth's Hospital, and that's when he realized they're not treatable. And he realized he kind of got fooled by a lot of those psychopaths. And he's perfectly willing to say, they should use the term psychopath. Because it's as a label, it's useful. as a diagnosis, it's not useful because you can't treat it. So it'll be argued to the cows come home. And I also make no difference between sociopath and psychopath. I think is another, that to me is a totally silly thing. And a lot of times they just make up, so this will fit over here better and this will fit over here better. And they tend to, they keep changing their mind on what it means. Is like, is one like more intelligent than the other? Is one more educated than others? They're same mindset. It's the mindset. It's the way one looks at the world. And in this particular person's review, they're saying that it's a moral code. That's a moral label. Like psychopaths are immoral people, and we shouldn't be judging people by morality. Well, I'm going to say that if it's your way of looking at the world is a certain way, that your way of thinking is such that you don't care about other human beings, that you're the only one that matters, that you're useful in the way, which is my number one for what a psychopath is. And you look at all the other traits that they have, they're useful to know, because when these people are in your life, you should be able to recognize it. It's very helpful to recognize it. And is it, I don't know, say it's what am I saying, that it's a matter of morals if you care about people or not? Well, I guess, but if I'm going to be involved with you, I kind of prefer that you care about people, So do I like it? No, I can't stand it. Not a fan of the DSM. Of course, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm not treating people. If I were treating people, I might want to go through all kinds of different diagnoses, and you got to fill out all these things. I'm a more straightforward, logical person. I don't think a lot of times these hundreds of definitions are necessary, because I think a lot of them are basically the same. And it's just different. They may have different ways of expressing themselves. But that's just me, but I'm not in the field. So as somebody will definitely point out. But speaking of that, let's talk about this case, which is just bizarre beyond belief. We have this, where is this fellow? Where are you, fellow? Oh, here he is. The surgeon who lost his legs to sepsis. And he became the celebrity because, he was a surgeon, and he cut people's legs off for a living. And then he ended up losing his legs to sepsis. And and here's a picture of him. Here he is, and with his legs, his fake legs. And here he is again. Here he is. Hopper gave an interview to BBC. Don't make the Hopper joke, because every single person on Daily Mail had to make the Hopper joke. In which he described returning to work after supposedly losing his legs to sepsis. Now, there you see the word supposedly. This particular case is one of, again, extremism and fetishism. I can't say that right now. But having a fetish. Somebody write that down for me so I can read it. He didn't do the surgery on his own legs. So, but let me read you from this, if I can see. I've still got things like blocking my vision. It's just driving me nuts. Anyway, surgeon who was part of the eunuch maker ring. I'll get into the eunuch maker. This is beyond bizarre. This is the eunuch maker. His name is Marius Gustafsson, and he they encourage people to amputate parts, you see. All right, so he lied. But the surgeon here, he is on television. I'm sorry, there he is on television. He lied on TV about losing his legs to sepsis. And what he actually did was apply dry ice to his legs until they caused his legs to get sepsis, and had to have them amputated in a twisted sexual fantasy. Okay, so let me try to read you some of this, because it is bizarre. An NHS vascular surgeon who carried out hundreds of amputation operations has admitted to cutting his legs off on purpose. Well, he supposedly did not do it himself. They said it was poorly written here. Lying about losing them to sepsis, to claim a 466-pound insurance payout. Now, the insurance payout, he got an insurance payout, but I don't believe that's why he wanted his legs off. He had just, okay, so let me read a little bit more of this. And he's also admitted to 3 charges of possessing extreme pornographic images relating to videos by a website called the Eunuch Maker, which depicted genital mutilation. So what he did was use dry ice to freeze his legs to the extent they were no longer viable, requiring amputation, which had long been an ambition of his, and he had a sexual interest in it. So he said to the BBC after this all happened, "Well, my life is more interesting because of what happened to me." So he's more thrilled to have no legs than to have legs, and to have these the artificial legs. Okay, so Hopper lied about his injuries that led to both of his legs being amputated, not telling him they were self-inflicted. On the videos he purchased from Marius Gustafsson, who ran the Eunuch Maker website, he deliberately sought the videos, which he had a sexual interest in. He loved those videos, and he watched thousands of them. All right. Now, the lawyer for him said that his clients had a distaste from a young age concerning his feet. From a young age, he felt he was in the wrong body. He was troubled by his gender. So we're talking about gender dysphoria, supposedly. He wanted to be female, but I'm not sure what cutting your legs off has to do with being female. Or maybe the feet were too big for a female. I don't know. He suffered body dysphoria and a particular distaste for his feet. They never felt part of him. He felt they were an unwelcome extra. Now, there have been people who claim that they have had a body part that they can't stand. There was a person I had an arm. They couldn't stand having that right arm. It wasn't their arm. And then actually got a real surgeon to cut their arm off to make them happier. And they said they were happier. There's a woman who wanted to be blind. I think she blinded herself. And then she was happier because she was blind. Once upon a time, there was a place for these people called a mental institution. Somebody said this, which I thought was this the one? Okay. He suffered body dysphoria and a particular distaste for his feet. They never felt part of them. They were unwelcome extra. This, unfortunately, is why we shouldn't be affirming any type of body dysphoria. It's a mental condition, not a badge of honor. And this, I think, is very true. I mean, we're always sometimes not satisfied with some aspect of our bodies. I mean, that can happen to every person. But there's a difference between being dissatisfied and thinking that literally it shouldn't be there. And we have these extremists. I mean, when I'm talking about extreme, that is problematic. Now, I don't want to get anything political here because, but I'm talking mostly about this serious extreme stuff. And I thought this is a good point. I wish we could turn the clock back 30 or 40 years. Social standards were so much higher than people with strange fetishes weren't emboldened. And this, I think, is really one of the problems. That a lot of people have had weird things, in their minds. But until the internet came along, a lot of these people didn't have any way to be encouraged, because there's 2 ways people encourage people. One way is because they're selling them a product. People will sell you, and as long as you be excited by it and buy their product, they will sell it to you. And so as long as you have a willing victim, you have a willing salesperson. And therefore you have to have an outlet for it. What you don't have, generally speaking, is an outlet, a fetish outlet at the mall for people who want to amputate their body parts. That's not going to be there. It won't survive, but it survives on the internet, which is frightening. Same thing has happened with pornography in general. Pornography used to be that place out. First of all, there didn't used to be pornography to any extent. Then there used to be the magazines you get at the XXX shop on the edge of town. Now you got OnlyFans and Pornhub 24 hours a day right here. So people who have become obsessed and they watch something, they get intrigued by it, they get excited by it, and then they want it. It's like a drug. You want it and want it and want it and want it. You're not addicted, but you enjoy what it is, so it becomes habitual. And then a lot of times the problem with habitual things, like it does with alcohol or drugs or anything. It gets, after a while, it's not enough. You have to keep upping the dose. So that's why pornography goes from softcore to hardcore to even really bad stuff. And then people who are given this concept of, like removing body parts, they get excited by it. And then after a while, they want to get more excited. And then it goes crazy and crazier and crazier. Now, just to show you one of this book called Interview with the Cannibal by Gunther Stamp, R.I.P. Gunther. Gunther and I, he had me do the, it says here, you can see it says, edited by Pat Brown. And I wrote a profile in this book on this cannibal. And the only reason he was able to be a cannibal and what got him interested in being a cannibal was websites. He went to a cannibal website and other people came to the cannibal website, those who wanted to be cannibals and those who wanted to be eaten by cannibals. This extremism of something far beyond the norm of life on either side. And eventually this guy wanted to be eaten by him. So he showed up and the man did what he wanted. He ate him. He's in prison, thank God. But how did this flourish? Well, it flourished because it could. And we have this guy, this creepy dude. Let me read a little bit more about let's see, where is it? I'm looking for the part about the guy with the website. Hold on a second, let me find it. Oh, the Eunuch Maker website. All right. Extreme body modification is linked to a subculture where men become nullos, short for genital nullification, by having their penis and testicles removed. Gustafsson netted more than 300,000 pounds between 2017 and 2021 after posting videos of various procedures on his Eunuch Maker website. Former patients of Hopper, including some who underwent amputations, have contacted them. Well, they were concerned about, hey, this guy, I hope I was supposed to have whatever I had removed. But this crap that is permitted on the internet and flourishes, and this extremism that flourishes also is being accessed by teens. And the teens are getting into this extreme things. Some of them want to become those edgelords because that's exciting. It's more exciting than their normal life. And if they keep at it, keep imbibing the kind of stuff that excites them and then doesn't excite them enough, they just keep ratcheting it up. And it's a very dangerous thing, which is why we have a lot of teens that are suffering from all kinds of issues. And it's something we need to address in society. And, because it's scary. It's scary stuff. It's scary when you watch a teen grow up and these days. And some of the adults is like, what the heck, I'm not sure where he was accessible. I'm not sure whether it's a dark web or not. It doesn't seem to say here. One would think it wasn't on the regular web, but I don't want to put it in my computer because I put in a lot of weird stuff in my computer to look things up over time. And so anybody who looks at my search history will assume that I am a real sick person. Wow, really? Promoting eunuch as an identity. Wow, as an identity. Oh, there you go. Once upon a time, you became a eunuch because you were like a slave and got things cut off so that you would not be, so you could then attend to the ladies and not be a threat to them. It's like, wow. But this is true. Meanwhile, YouTube censors certain words but can't remove truly dangerous content. Well, I think some of the content makes the money. And those little sensitive words that I think that's all show. I think it's all show. That's my opinion on what it is. Because saying unalive as opposed to suicide is really so stupid. I can't believe it. And I've seen people even in the comment section say on a live, I'm like, wow, oh man. And there's a whole bunch of them that people say these days are just like, geez. Yeah, you don't want to go to the dark web, Clarissa. Yes, please don't do that. It's not fun. It is dumb. I tell you, it's just dumb, especially when you're talking about something in an educational fashion. I understand if you're promoting something, but if you're talking about it in an educational way, I had, by the way, I had my video on Epstein and McAfee and their deaths. It was removed by YouTube for discussing suicide. So they removed the entire video. Just disappeared one day, and they told me we took it off. I'm like, gee, thanks. It was educational. What the heck? It was disgusting. But that's the way things work. So anyway, that's a creepy dude. Bring that lovely fella to your attention. But by the way, in case you haven't seen it yet, I got bugs on my. Do you see that bug go up my nose? All right. I just did this. If you haven't seen it yet, Unknown Psycho: The Truth Behind the Perpetrator, and the Unknown Number High School Catfish Netflix documentary that came out, which is very interesting. If you haven't seen it yet, watch it before you watch my video on it, because it's pretty fascinating. And don't discuss it here in case somebody hasn't seen the video and they'd like to watch a documentary without knowing the answer to who the perpetrator is. But then I talk about, in this particular one, I talk about bullying, online bullying, stalking, just horrific stuff, just really frightening, very, very frightening. So if you got kids, got grandkids, got kids, got grandkids, and even yourself, do everything you can to block any kind of bullying and any kind of harassment, any kind of stalking. Stop it right away. People wait too long. They sometimes put up with it or think they should have a conversation. No, you don't need to do any of that stuff. You don't have to be nice to people who aren't nice to you. This is just the end of discussion right there. So, and then especially with kids, you've got to teach those kids to not be nice to people who aren't nice to them. Like, oh, this person did this way. Well, then you don't need to be around them. You have friends that are nice. Be around the nice friends. This piece of crap over here, toss them out. You'll have nothing to do with them. They don't deserve your attention. And then you prevent these kids from, and of course we have to, the problem is half the time parents don't know what the heck is going on. And that's a problem. The kid is holed up in their room, on their phone, on the internet, wherever. It's a problem. Once upon a time, I can't remember when my kids were teens when they think the internet started. So I don't know if we have much to do with it, but one of the things I recommended at the time for people was they should not have the internet in their room. They should have it in their living room. And that prevents them. They have to be able to sit in front of other people and be on the internet. And therefore they shouldn't be on the internet doing things that are not healthy because other people can see what they're doing. But with the phones, this is where people can hole up and just get involved in all kinds of crap. And teenagers shouldn't be involved in that stuff. But this is what's happening. And I think it is fueling a lot of very dangerous stuff. So that's probably a problem. Parents aren't parenting these days. I do think that's a problem. And I think it's a lot of times it's because they're overwhelmed. People are working too much. There's nobody actually home. And then the other problem simply is it's just such a small device. And unless you say to your child, they can't have this, unless you can put strong controls on it, and trouble is people don't oftentimes think that I can't do that to my kid because all the other kids are doing it, but sometimes you have to say no and say, no, that's not the way we operate to this family because we want everybody to be safe. And so therefore, no, you don't go to that person's house because I don't trust the adults there. I don't trust them. I'm not saying the kid's not nice, but that kid better come to our house because we're not sending you to their house. And a lot of times when they have parents that aren't the greatest over at somebody else's house, they're really happy to get rid of the kid anyway. So you can just have them come to your house. But then you have to monitor what's going on. And I think it is very tricky. I think it's trickier today than it was even when my kids are growing up, that batch, and probably even harder than when I was growing up. So I think I give parents a break in the sense I know what they're up against, but I keep wanting to tell them, don't let your guard down, because your child, all of a sudden, you just don't know what happened to your child. And they're, and it's because you didn't realize it was going on. So, yeah, child-centered parents, a valid practice. They've gone too far. Well, yeah, maybe. We could only watch certain shows like The Waltons and Little House. There you go. Yeah, those, we had very clean, nice shows to watch, and there wasn't, say, just being able to go on the internet and just all this stuff. It's tricky. It's very, very tricky. So, yeah, that's true. I don't care what all the other kids are doing. And generally speaking, as a parent, we have to get everybody in the family to understand that we're not here to just let you do anything, because as people say, well, they got to learn, they got to be a part of society and do what everybody else does. I mean, I've heard that, and I'm like, actually, no, but it's still very tricky. It's still very tricky. I'm not going to get into all kinds of parenting stuff right now, but I just, yeah. So I did that show, and oh, by the way, in case you haven't checked my other channel out, this is the new one I just did for Dear Profiler Pat. The question is, why do I keep getting dumped? So if you're interested in getting some advice, go to my other channel, which is usually linked below in all of my shows now on this channel. So you can go to that channel. Use that channel, could use some help. Okay, now speaking of, no, I'm not speaking of. Oh, which one do I want to do next? Oh, so I always asked about this. I want to do, oh, sorry, wrong one. But I might have mentioned this. Archer Mayo is the guy that found he found the vehicle from this family that went missing like half a century ago. And let me find it. Where did you? Oh, here he is. And the question is, he's now found a bone. So this is a 67-year-old mystery. So this family, there was a father, Kenneth Martin, and his wife, Barbara Martin, and their 3 children, Barbara, Virginia, and Susan, 3 little girls, left their Portland home, supposedly looking for a Christmas tree, and disappeared. And they believe they found the Martin's car finally after all these years. A couple of the bodies have actually floated up years before, and now they think they have a bone. I'm not sure. Now, here's the thing with, but they found this bone, but I don't know what that's going to change anything. Interesting though that is, I don't know that it changes anything, because the problem is there's one of 3 things happened. There's a claim that they went and ate at this place, and there were some criminals there at the same time, and they may have been carjacked. And there's a whole bunch of stuff about the criminality of these people and where their house was and where the car ended up. And so maybe they were carjacked, and that's why they ended up dead. But in the water. So they were in the water at this, in the river. What river was it? Let me find the part about that. Hood River. They never made it home. Let's see. Okay, they went to a place called the Hood River Cafe, and there's several theories about what happened. Kenneth actually drove into the locks after they stopped for gas, or they were hijacked and murdered by 2 ex-convicts. Or he drove in there by accident, or he drove in there in a suicidal thing. I mean, it could be that too. But they don't know which one it is. Now, the only thing that could make a difference, in my opinion, first of all, if they were carjacked, I don't know why they're in the car, all 5 of them, going off the cliff. That's a little weird. Unless they were all dead before they went off the cliff. And how did they get dead would be the question. And now, if they found a skull of, let's say, the father with a bullet in his head, maybe that would be interesting. I don't know that they're going to get anywhere as far as exactly what happened. I mean, it's been many, many years. And if they haven't figured it out by now, if they don't have any confessions, if they don't have any evidence that actually shows what happened to them outside of, they know they have their car in the water, and their bodies, there were some bodies in the water. And if they find one more body or a piece of a body, I'm not sure that makes any difference. So just to bring you up to date on that, I'm not sure. That's fascinating, but I don't know that it's going to forward the case any. In other words, kind of have closure and figure out exactly what happened. I don't see how that would make a difference at this point. So why wouldn't they have taken the car? Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand the ex-con thing and what they would get out of it. If the car's in the river, they're not getting the car, or what did they get? Did they pick up a Christmas tree and they got the Christmas tree? I just don't know what the point would have been. Yeah, I don't understand it. So it seems more likely that they drove into the river by accident. And I'm not there to see if he could have missed the turn or whether he just decided to drive off. I don't know. Well, if the bone, well, they've already had two bones. It's not that they found two bodies already years ago. And it was, I think, a mother and one of the daughters. Let me find out what it was. It was okay, so on May 3rd, 1959, almost 5 months after the family was reported missing, Susan's body was discovered in the Columbia River near Camas. And the following day, Virginia's body was discovered near the Bonneville Dam. So I already got two of the bodies. They're all dead. There's no question about them being dead. The question is how they got dead. And I mean, so I don't know that identifying more bodies would do any good. The only way that would be meaningful, in my opinion, would be if you found the whole family dead and daddy was off living with his new girlfriend. He wasn't one of the dead. But other than that, you find one more body, what does it prove? Unless you find a body with a gunshot in the back of the head or something, and you think, okay, somebody shot dad and pushed them all into the water. I don't know. Heart attack, maybe. I think it's one of those cases. I don't think it'll ever have any conclusion. It's just one of these. There are many cases which you never actually find out what happened. Speaking of that, let me go to the other case I was going to talk about, which was what I was trying to aim for when I clicked the button wrongly. Where'd she go? Have I lost her? Oh, no, here she is. All right. So this is a girl. This is Sophia. She's a Dutch girl, and this is her mother. I can't pronounce her name because I don't speak Dutch. Anyway, that's Sophia and her mother. Okay. This is their first meeting in Kampala. Now, what I find interesting is this. In this particular case, this is one of these cases where somebody goes missing and she's not been found yet, and the family is very upset about. They're very mad at people in Uganda, and that they're holding them responsible for what happened to this girl. So let me find it. Okay, it's very sad. I mean, it's terribly sad. But here, I'll tell you what bothers me about this case. This story is called "This Day the Sky Fell When Our Sophia Went Missing." Well, yeah, if you lose your daughter, that is definitely what you'd feel like. On a Wednesday evening in 2015, our beautiful daughter and sister, Sophia, disappeared in Murchison Falls National Park. She had just acquired her Bachelor of Medicine and came to Uganda to work as an intern in the Lubaga Hospital in Kampala. After completing that 8-week internship, she went on a trip around the country with 2 Dutch students and a Ugandan tour guide who was also their driver. The trip was to last 17 days. On day 6, she vanished. And says, to this day, her disappearance remains a mystery that has dominated our lives ever since. In my relentless search for Sophia and answers, I have made 28 journeys to Uganda so far, always hoping that many questions we have will be answered one day when asked by the right people. On a Monday, July 7th, I testified in Buganda Road Court in the case that the prosecution opened against Sophia's tour guide. A police investigation into Sophia's disappearance found that he was not licensed to work as a tour guide when he took Sophia and her companions on that trip. We were not aware of this. The paper has reported all the court hearings on the case. Let's see. A witness who worked in the Kadepo National Park when Sophia spent one night there. They heard from that person. And now here's where it gets interesting. So she's disappeared. And the inference is, hello, cat. I'm sorry. Kitty is here. Hello, cat. Hello, cat. Mac, hi. I don't care. You don't care. Anyway, the inference is the tour guide was wrongly giving a tour because he wasn't licensed. Now, should he have been licensed if that's a requirement by the country? Absolutely. Is it his fault that Sophia went missing? Not necessarily. I mean, I've used tour guides before that probably weren't licensed by anybody. Now, could they be questionable people? Maybe they have a criminal background. Sure, if you don't go through a specific agency and you don't know, perhaps it's true. You could get somebody who's really sketchy. Of course, you could get a sketchy person that the tourist agency hired just as well. But the question is, did he have anything to do with this? So what it first starts out by is you think this is a girl who's she's going to become a doctor, and everything is just, she goes on this trip and something nefarious happens. And if you remember the Panama Girls, if anybody saw my Panama Girls video with the two girls in Panama, they went up this volcano, the easy part of it, and they walked up to the top. And then for some reason, they went over the top of that volcano, which wasn't what they should have done. And they took some pictures and they're looking happy, and then they disappear. They're found, I forgot how many weeks later, dead. And to this day, the family is believing that they were kidnapped and held and whatever else. And then there was some tour guide who was accused of being involved, maybe, I don't know, luring them to something and all kinds of nonsense. Anyway, the evidence shows that they got lost. That's what the evidence shows. You got lost in a jungle. You didn't know what you were doing. You took a risk and you got turned around, and then something happened and you just couldn't, they were trying to call for help and they couldn't get help. Days went by, they died. But the family's still looking for proof that somebody did something to them. So here we have the same situation here. Now, if you're off a young girl, off on some tour with a couple other young girls, can something bad happen to you because you're in the middle of freaking nowhere with people who you don't know who they are? Sure, something bad can happen. But then listen to what is said from this point on. All right. So this witness was working in this Kadepo National Park where she spent one night. According to the newspaper accounts, she is being depicted as a crazy girl. This is painful to read for us who know her so well. It is hard to tell how accurate these testimonies are. Okay, you're having a problem knowing how accurate the testimony is. Well, why would you even give it consideration if you didn't think there was some possible truth to it? All right. Very vulnerable. A few years ago, I received an email from an English lady. She wrote that she was in Kadepo with her family that same night. She confirmed they were woken up by a noise, and she and her husband went out to investigate. They found Sophie on the viewing platform and interacted with her. The lady described her as responsive, apologetic for making noise, polite, and very articulate, but at the same time, Sophie struck her as very vulnerable. She and her husband expressed their concerns about her well-being to both the warden and the tour guide in the morning. They were not sure how seriously they were taken. Okay, now we have an admission. Something's wrong with Sophie. And they're telling the warden and this tour guide something might be wrong with this girl. Now, here's one of my questions. Whose responsibility is it to deal with somebody who's got some issues? Is it the warden's responsibility? Is the tour guide responsible for an adult with weird issues? Or what is it the adult herself and her family? Okay, let's read a little further. The first time I heard about the tour guide being warned not to travel further with Sophie was in June of 2016. They tracked her journey from Kampala to Murchison. We also spent one night at Kadepo where I spoke to the warden. And they told me they gave advice to the tour guide, right? Maybe we shouldn't travel with that girl. I had come to visit Sophie in Uganda. The last time I saw her was 1 week before her disappearance. We had dinner together and would normally see one another again at home in November. I did not notice anything unusual about my daughter. She was vividly telling me about her work in the hospital and said that if they asked her to stay for another 2 months, she would say yes. The last time I spoke to her on the phone, she sounded fine. She told me she was on a boat and enjoying the trip. And so she never heard about her not being well. But now obviously now she's heard this, right? Now, so it's very hard for us to understand why the tour guide took them to the student center that night. He was clearly aware she was not well. Why? Why was she not well? What is a tour guide supposed to do about it? She went to a student center. Why would she be not okay at a student center? What kind of not well are we talking about? The companion told them around 6 p.m. that afternoon they worried about her and they had to return to Kampala. The prior night, instead of going to Kitgum, the tour guide decided to take them to Gulu, a more resourceful place, as he later said. I think he was looking for, maybe a bigger town. If he was heeding the advice he'd received in Kadepo that morning, why take Sophie the next day to the least resourceful place one can think about? He thought it was a more resourceful place. Or what? Very cheap, but unfit for tourists, as there's no security, no nothing really. He should have gone to a more resourceful place. So obviously there's a disagreement over how resourceful it is, how secure it is. And why do they need security? What kind of, this whole concept about security. I saw this with the little girl that disappeared in, where was it? Indonesia? And they were upset because there was no security at the place they were staying. Well, I've been in, I don't know how many places around the world. They don't always provide security. I mean, they don't. I mean, it's like they can't afford security. They just have, a number of rooms and you stay in them. And there isn't always a security guard on the property. So if you want that kind of security because you're worried that much, you better pick a place that has security. So he could have gone to it. Okay. So anyway, he created a situation that maximized the chance for accidents to happen. for accidents to happen. So he goes to a place where essentially, I don't know, adults of all sorts, college students, go on hikes and things, hike through the mountains. You stay on the side of the mountain in a freaking tent. Is that waiting for an accident to happen? I mean, do you not do it because you should be in a safer place? So then she says this, and then it gets to this part. As mentioned earlier, it pains us to see Sophie being described as a crazy girl. And I feel the urge to explain her bipolar condition, which I believe is not well understood. Bipolar is not a mold that everyone with this diagnosis fits into. On the contrary, the spectrum in which it is manifested is very wide. Many bipolar individuals experience mood swings, but 10 to 50% only become manic, never depressed. Now, Sophie belongs to this category, which makes her unipolar. Only very occasionally does she experience a hypermanic or manic episode. They're short, few, and far between, and she recovers fast. It has never set her back in school, study, or work. When she left for Uganda, she was fine. At the Lubaga hospital, they were full of praise for her. On the second day of her journey, she told her 2 travel companions, also medical students, that she is bipolar. They later confessed to me that they were very surprised to hear that because they hadn't noticed anything unusual about her. Then she goes on to explain manic episodes. Manic episodes occur when there are a lot of incentives and new experiences and not enough rest to process everything. The latter was clearly the case in those 8 weeks. In Kampala, living in a very full and busy house and getting up early to go to work. As she wrote in one of her extensive weekly reports, it's fun to live in a student house, but it is never quiet. And quiet is crucial for Sophie, who is far from crazy. She was ill when she disappeared and needed care. Some people have heart conditions, others have diabetes. Sophia is bipolar. Whose responsibility is it? Sophia is an adult. She knows she's bipolar and certain things are unsafe for her to be. She shouldn't be in those situations. If you're the family of somebody like this, it is more your responsibility to help her understand these things and to work to make sure she doesn't get in these situations. You can't blame this poor tour guide. He's a tour guide. His job is to give a tour, not to be a mental health counselor, and not to know exactly what to do because someone's acting a little off. And what did he think? And you say she doesn't act too weird too often? How is he supposed to know something's going to happen to her because of what? Because there's not a security guard there? And a security guard's on a property doesn't keep somebody from leaving the property unless it's her personal security guard. So I don't know what happened to her. Apparently she wandered off someplace, seems, and got lost somewhere and probably is not alive, which is horrible because she seemed like she had some talent going for her. But I find it interesting that the lack of responsibility, that people think that they don't take the responsibility themselves. Their adult child doesn't take the responsibility themselves, but they blame some Ugandan tour guide for not taking responsibility for the mental health of their daughter. I mean, that's just nuts. I mean, just very weird. That's very weird. She needed a doctor to check in with her. Well, she was working at a hospital. So that might be the place for her to stay, is in a hospital. But, the problem people don't seem to get is even if she was with a tour group on a tour bus with air conditioning and the internet, even if they stayed at Western style hotels, so she had a private bathroom and a shower, that doesn't mean she can't walk out the door and just go wander off someplace. There's nobody's her keeper. So if she's got psychological problems, she's going to have them also, regardless of where she is. She could have walked away from that hospital one day, walked down and said, I'm going to go to town and get some food, and just disappeared. When she gets home, to wherever she lives, in Holland or someplace, she could just disappear any night of the week. She's an adult. She's responsible for herself. And if she needs help, she has to seek help, and she has to plan things appropriately for where she thinks she might be out of control. It's not the tour guide's problem. And to go after Uganda for this, it's insane. Now, if there's a crime involved, that's another matter. And if the police have looked at this and don't see a crime involved, well, there isn't a crime involved. They haven't found her, obviously, so I don't know what the heck happened to her. Now, she could have wandered off in the night and run into somebody who was bad. And that happened. She could be vulnerable in that way because she got manic and she ran off into the whatever area they were in, and some creep came along and did her in. It's possible. But Taylor says a manic episode can be terrifying for the loved ones of a person. Usually feels good for the person. Openness to risk is huge. Yeah. And I mean, that's the problem. I mean, risky behavior then ensues. But who do you blame for that? I mean, I say, do you blame the friends? The friends were there too. Why weren't they with her the whole time? I mean, you could blame everybody else. Maybe she didn't. I don't know. She told some people, but I don't know. What a shame, though. I mean, it is a shame. But the way I just find it interesting when somebody else is blamed for something that is not their responsibility. And I felt bad I feel if the tour guide was operating illegally, well, that's a whole nother situation. But I don't know that has anything to do with her disappearance, unless he himself did something nefarious. So I thought that was interesting. Now I wanted to talk about there are these three cases which were brought to my attention, and I'm trying to figure out which one I want to do first, because remember the issue I have about women often getting some kind of sympathy thing for their crimes that men would never, ever get? Yeah. Let's see, this one. Death penalty dropped against Australian woman Lisa Cunningham. That would be this one. This is Lisa Cunningham, and this is her husband, Jermaine. And this is the little girl that supposedly they tortured and she ended up dying. And so the whole case is very weird. So it says here, she was awaiting trial. She lived in Arizona, by the way. She's Australian, but she lived in Arizona. Awaiting trial in the U.S. over the death of her stepdaughter will not face the death penalty. U.S. prosecutors have withdrawn their intention to seek the death penalty without asking for anything in return, the lawyer says. And why did they do this? This is really interesting. Supposedly, hold on, so let me find where the statement is. Oh, where's the statement? Australian government efforts to have the death penalty removed was instrumental in the outcome. We are thankful to the State Department in Australia. They have been sort of leading the charge on the political side of this with relevant authorities in Arizona, and I'm sure that they played a role in the death penalty being lifted. The Australian government has been interested in the potential penalty. Australia doesn't have the death penalty. My client is an Australian citizen, so Australia has a vested interest in protecting their citizens wherever they may be. What about this one? Did they have any vested interest in protecting this little girl? I'm going to say this. Sorry, I'll say this. If you're from another country and you go to some other country, you're under their laws, not your own laws. So if you go to, let's say, Singapore, and you bring drugs in, you may receive the death penalty. And I don't think America should have your butt because, oh, well, we're an American citizen, and I don't think they should have a death penalty just for transporting this drugs. Well, that person knew that when they crossed into that country, they are under the law of that country. So, I just think this is, if an Australian citizen wants to come and live in the U.S. and commit a crime, well, you're going to go into criminal law here. That's the way I think. But anyway, but she got out of this death penalty. Now, what did she do, by the way? All right. And then I guess she's going to be released from jail. And then this is really a confusing case because I can't quite figure out. She's denied the allegations that she did any harm to her daughter. They've been investigated for a number of years, and that Lisa and her husband tried to get help for their daughter because her daughter had like early onset schizophrenia and was a mess. And then they gave her medicine that made her ill. That's what they're claiming. Now, let me find the rest of the story here because this is what they're claiming. But okay, this is from 2021. Oh, sorry, wrong person. Where'd it go? Where is this? So which one was I doing? Cunningham? I got 3 different women here, and I guess okay, here we go. Now this is from August 24th, 2025. So this has just been published. A South Australian mother, hold on a second, somebody's blocking my view here, has spoken from behind bars, declaring her innocence. She's 51 years old. She had 4 kids. She's been incarcerated for 8 years, confined to a 2-meter by 3-meter cell. She's only allowed 1 hour a day and lives alongside some of America's worst female killers. She faced death after being charged with first-degree murder back in 2017. That's when her daughter died, 2017. She was charged alongside her U.S. husband, Jermaine, following a 10-month investigation that the girl died from sepsis infection. Okay, now, prosecutors filed a withdrawal of intent to seek the death penalty. Okay, so she's out of the death penalty now. Now, key elements of her defense have revealed that it was a medical tragedy. She wasn't harmed by her parents. She said her stepdaughter had early onset schizophrenia. Oh, it wasn't her daughter, it was her stepdaughter. Interesting. And was prescribed an antipsychotic drug, not recommended for children under 13. It's always been such a mystery to us why it is easier to believe that we tried to slowly kill her with this bizarre delayed death torture story than to simply accept the fact that she entered into the early onset period of severe mental illness. I think she died because of Risperdal. Risperdal kills people all the time. And then Lisa's daughter spoke of her as being a loving mother. My mom was our best friend, and she was my rock. So she thought she's a great person. Okay. So you start to read this, and you're like, what the heck? Did they really railroad this woman? She said the first sign that something was wrong with Sana was when she started eating things she wasn't supposed to. And then she started swallowing non-food items compulsively. And she said, we had this big, noisy, amazing family, and the kids were great. The sad thing was this one thing happened that nobody really knew how to fix. Nobody knew how to make it better for her. 11 months before her death, she claimed that stepdaughter became a risk to herself and others. She did try to hurt her little sister. She tried to hit her over the head with a rock. And my knee-jerk reaction was, what happened? I still have nightmares about the things she would do. All right. And then the psychologist gave a shocking diagnosis that she was early schizophrenia, and that she needed antipsychotic medication. And so they gave her this Risperdal. Okay. The psychiatrist is not facing any charges. Now, let's see. They said Sana experienced side effects of the medication. And Sana's condition worried. They took her to the hospital, and she died. All right. So what happened to Sana? Here's the problem. The autopsy report noted that there were scars on multiple locations on Sana's body and more than 100 cuts and bruises head to toe. Sana didn't receive any of those injuries. These were self-inflicted injuries. So the parents are saying they never hurt her, that she more than 100 cuts and bruises head to toe. Okay. An attending doctor reported a suspicious wound that was on her right foot that had been sepsis that had been there for months. And Lisa said Sana kept picking at it. Prosecutors alleged Sana suffered at the hands of two neglectful parents who kept her confined to a laundry, often in a makeshift straitjacket. They also claimed police issued RIPP restraints. Zip ties and handcuffs were used on the child, claim which Lisa denies. So they were using handcuffs on her, supposedly zip ties and restraints. I never restrained or zip tied or handcuffed her. You can't handcuff a 6-year-old. It's ridiculous. Handcuffs don't fit 6 years old. You don't need a degree to figure that out. However, since deleted messages allegedly sent between Lisa and Germaine the night before Sana's death have emerged. Quote, I have her standing with her hands behind her back, wrapped up in a headband, and she's still trying to act a fool, Lisa allegedly messaged. To which Germaine allegedly responded, I don't want her to sleep with her hands behind her back. Some people can die like that if they have certain health issues or on drugs. Lisa replied, I'm not having her groaning and screaming, keeping everyone up with her bullcrap. Sana doesn't have a certain drug issue or health issues that can kill her if she's restrained. Lisa says the text just proved the pair were exhausted. She says, if you look from a distance, you go through our messages and the way we communicated with each other, you're going to form your own opinions. I guess they formed their own opinions somehow. After Sana's death, they took all the kids away. All right. So then it says here, there were numerous complaints that led up to Sana's death. There were neglect complaints that were sent to the Arizona Department of Child Safety. So it'll be interesting. So the trial is going to be ongoing in the weeks to come. Was the child treated well? And she's just being accused. I mean, it's been 8 years now. I mean, it's a long dang time. She was wrongly accused, and she and her husband were wrongly accused of hurting the child. I don't know. I don't have enough of the evidence yet. I'm looking forward to the trial. But was it something where, this is when it comes down to sometimes the medical stuff, what I've seen happen over and over these days is, in many cases, the defense attorney will find enough certain people to claim these things are all medical and therefore excusing what happened to the child. Nobody hurt the child, that all of these things happen because of some other medical condition. And this has been going on for a lot of cases now. And even though the behavior of the parents is extraordinarily suspicious in many of these cases, or the person who has killed them they were convicted of it, everything points to them doing something to the child. These medical experts will pop up and say, oh, no, it was all just medical and everything else was a misunderstanding. So I don't know. We'll wait to see what comes up, but don't know. So I'll have to see I really don't know much about this case yet. So you think the two are full of BS. Yeah, this is an interesting point. They should have put her in a psych ward instead of abusing her. Now, the question would be, and I'm looking forward to this at the trial aspect. How much did they do? If you're having that much trouble with the child, you should be working with somebody on a constant basis on how to handle this child. And if she was really being put in the laundry and shut in and then restrained, and all these things are happening to it, obviously, even if she does have these mental issues, this is not the way you treat a child. You have to have somebody work with you to handle the child in the best way possible. So I'll be curious to see what they come up with. Now, the other two I want to mention are these two women who murdered women for their babies. Okay, let me see which one we have here. Which one is this? Okay, this is Taylor Parker. Now, you're going to see why I want to talk about this in a minute, because remember I tell you they always like to come up with some excuse for women that doing horrible things, where when it comes to the men did the same thing, it wouldn't be an issue. So Taylor Parker, what did she do? Let's find out what she did. Taylor, where are you? Okay, here we go. She was sentenced to death for killing her pregnant friend to steal her unborn baby. All right, this is in Texas. A Texas jury sentenced her to death Wednesday, and let's see, when was this come? This came out in 2022, so this was a while back. For killing a pregnant woman she knew to take her unborn child, the baby. They took an hour to figure this one out. They convicted her of capital murder in the 2020 slaying of 21-year-old Oregon Simmons Hancock, whose baby was cut from her womb and did not survive. Now listen to this story. It's unbelievable. The mother of the woman who got killed said Parker is an evil piece of flesh demon. Well, there's a visual piece there. My baby was alive, fighting for her babies when you tore her open and ripped her baby from her stomach. Take her to death row. Anyway, so this is what happened. This woman the woman who was killed also had a 3-year-old child who was at home at the time her mother was killed. So later that morning, Parker claimed, this is Parker, after she killed her, she was driving along and she was pulled over by a state trooper for speeding and driving erratically. She claimed she had just given birth. Look, here's my baby, right? The baby was taken to the hospital in Oklahoma where she was pronounced dead. So she killed, the baby died too. The prosecutor said that in an attempt to keep her boyfriend, Parker made herself look pregnant, faked ultrasounds, and even had a gender reveal party. During the trial, state police investigators testified she conducted intensive research on how to fake a pregnancy convincingly. Always watch out. If you're going to commit a crime, folks, do not use your computer to go and do all your research on how to commit the crime. Just a hint. On the day of the killing, she watched a video on the physical exam of an infant delivered preterm at 35 weeks. And this woman had befriended the other woman, taking their engagement and wedding pictures. And then she went there and slashed her. This poor woman, she went and slashed the baby out of her womb and also slashed her hundreds of times and beat her. Yeah. So this is where you have the Munchausen syndrome thing going. See, Munchausen syndrome in the sense that she wanted the attention she wasn't getting from the boyfriend, from the family, from everybody else. So she did all this stuff to fake that she was pregnant. Now, it's easier, the better way to do this, if you're going to do it a better way, would be to pretend you're pregnant and then to steal a baby from the park, So you don't have to kill people to get the baby, and then the baby won't die either because the baby will be alive. And then maybe they will be able to, some people have done that, steal the baby from the hospital. And the family's thinks the person's been pregnant. So suddenly they show up with a baby. It's always amazing to me. They're like, don't you have any questions about where the baby was born or, why she can't nurse it? Because, well, I don't want to nurse because I don't have any milk. But nobody really questions. But usually the thing is, a person like this will they got people around them who don't question them. That's how they get away with it. And if she did all of this, one can gather that she has always been psychopathic. And she's been a pathological liar and a manipulator for her entire life. So that's why she'll go this extra mile to get what she wants, which is pretty appalling. Luckily, as far as I know, I don't know if she was got the death penalty yet. That was 2022. But I want to point out the other lady, because this is the one that really annoys me. Where is it? So Taylor. Okay, so was it this one? Okay, Lisa Marie Cunningham. This one. Lisa Montgomery. They executed her. So they did, and she got, what happened in this case? She strangled a pregnant woman before cutting out and kidnapping her baby in Missouri in 2004. Her victim was 23-year-old Bobby Jo Stinnett, who bled to death, but her baby was safely recovered and returned to her family. She was the first female inmate to be put to death. And but this is what the lawyer says. They should feel shame that they put this woman to death. The government stopped at nothing in its zeal to kill this damaged and delusional woman. Damaged and delusional. So if a man kills a baby, kills a woman, and cuts her baby up, they wouldn't say he was delusional, damaged. They say it for women. They did a competency hearing on all this crap. The lawyers argued she'd been born brain damaged and too mentally ill to be executed. As a child, she was routinely sexually and physically assaulted by her father and trafficked by her mother, family members said. Her treatment was so violent that it amounted to torture. Her defense team believes that at the time of her crime, she was psychotic and out of touch with reality. Really? That opinion was supported by 41 current and former lawyers, as well as human rights groups. This is, you have a woman who commits a brutal crime like this. And amazing how many people you can get to support her because she's a woman. I swear to God, if it was a guy, that would not be happening. But the victim's family and friends say the murder committed by Montgomery was so horrific she deserved to be put to death regardless of her mental health. And the question is, was she really psychotic? And I don't have any proof that she was psychotic because, get this part. She killed 23-year-old Stinnett in Skidmore, Missouri, after befriending the pregnant woman online over a share of loved dogs. I'm sorry, shared love of dogs. Shared love of dogs. So this was premeditated. That's not delusional. That's premeditated. After driving to Stinnett's house, she overpowered the pregnant woman, strangled her with a piece of rope, and cut the baby out of her womb. They found her cradling the newborn girl she claimed to have given birth to the day before. After her story fell apart, she confessed to the killing. So let's see. I don't have all the history of her entire life, but again, we have this problem of serial killers that can claim they had a bad upbringing too, and then they kill 10, 15 people. I guess they shouldn't. You should feel sorry for them. They have a mental problem. Anybody who commits these kind of crimes has mental issues. A lot of times it's called psychopathy, although that's not really even a real thing, right? It's psychopathy. But the defense lawyers will always spin it as something they were out of control in a psychotic state, because if you're psychotic, therefore you're delusional and you don't know what you're doing. But was she delusional when she found her on the internet, befriended her, and lured her and all this kind of stuff? That seems pretty like she knew what she was doing. So the only time when it really is clearly something psychotic is there's definitely a bunch of behaviors which would show that the person is completely out of touch with reality. She seemed like she was in touch with reality just because she failed to accomplish her mission because she got caught, just like the other woman got caught. Doesn't mean they're psychotic. And some of the women who kill their children they're psychopaths. They're not psychotic. But yet, for women, we throw the psychotic thing on all the time, and postpartum depression, psychosis, blah, blah, blah. And for men, we don't do that nearly as much. And I just always find that imbalance kind of interesting. But I'm going to say, you strangle a woman and cut a baby out of her stomach, you probably deserve the death penalty. Now, you don't have to believe in the death penalty and just say you don't believe in the death penalty and she's just be in prison for life. Okay, that's fine. But the excuses, just like the excuses for the Menendez brothers, which would people have given excuses for, because there's a new thing where bad parents deserve to be killed. and if you've had bad parents, you can't be held responsible for what you do as an adult. And I get it, the sense that, you can live a miserable life and it can help turn you into a miserable human being, but still, there's rules of society that say no matter how crappy your childhood is, and even if it does affect you, you can't go around killing people because you're in a bad mood. I mean, if you want to go back to, I don't understand why people get the bad roll of the dice. I mean, you can get, that's all kinds of, religious beliefs, existential beliefs, whatever beliefs you have of why people get crappy end of the deal as far as parenting goes. I mean, I got lucky. I got decent parents. I think my kids got a great mom. But I mean, sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't when you're growing up. And sometimes one kid in the family can do really well, and the other kid in the family, whatever reasons, doesn't go well for them. And they grow up and have psychological problems, and the psychological problems can be a variety of things. But when it gets down to the point where your psychological problems include killing people for your own purposes, society does have to take a stand against that. I mean, it's like, that just can't be happening. And that other person didn't deserve to die, and that baby doesn't deserve to die. So after some rules, but yet we seem to come up with a lot of excuses. That's true. Give no pass here for nothing, no excuse for some types of crimes, and I agree with that. There's just really no excuse. And if it turns out that the person's horrible childhood turned them into whatever they turned them into, well, after they die, they've already killed people. Those people are somewhere. Now, when you the killer die, I guess you can always take it up with, I say that I'm not doing anything religious here, but I'm just going to say, if the person who commits the crime doesn't believe in the death penalty, believes in the death penalty for other people. See, the killer believes in the death penalty because he has no problem killing people and giving them the death penalty, even when they don't deserve it. So if he gets a death penalty too, or she gets a death penalty too, take it up in the afterlife. But in this world, we have laws for a reason, and we can't go around killing people. I think delusional psychosis is a reason, and I agree with you. Not an excuse, but a reason. It doesn't apply here to Taylor. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few cases where clearly the person really was delusional. I mean, and there's specific things that show you that this is true. And it's true in the sense that they literally thought something like, I don't know, Satan was inside the baby, and things weird, some really weird stuff that is just completely delusional. Completely delusional. So when you have a person who is completely off, when you're visiting somebody and they say they're sitting there waiting for the president to call, unless they really do know the president, you can pretty much assume they're delusional. I've been around delusional people. I've been in hospitals with people who are delusional, and I'm like, whoa, they're delusional. They're seeing people that don't exist. They're talking to people that don't exist. They everything is disordered. But when you have a person who is able to handle life, does these certain things, they're able to competently do these things, and one day they decide, like Lindsay Clancy, we'll wait to see what happens in that case, specifically sends her husband away long enough to kill her 3 children. Is she delusional? Does she really have postpartum depression? Or is she sick of the kids? Was she Munchausen's? And she decided she'd had enough of taking care of the kids and not having not having the kind of attention she wanted, whatever the heck her issue is. She knew what she was doing. She's not delusional. And she specifically, in my opinion, Lindsay Clancy looked like she methodically killed those 3 children. And it's, I think she did jump out a window, but I think she miscalculated. I think she got hurt and she didn't think she was going to be. So I think that was going to be a fake suicide attempt, but she got injured. But we'll have to wait to see what comes in. I bet her lawyers are going to be trumping up she has PTSD. Postpartum depression. I think they're going to really push that one. Yeah, Andrea Yates. I personally think that I did a whole thing on Andrea Yates, and I think Andrea Yates was not delusional when she killed those children. And it's because she very methodically planned it out when she could do it, where she had enough time, and she methodically killed one after the other. And she knew exactly what she was doing. And I think she enjoyed, I think now she was tired of dealing with those kids. I think she got rid of them and was freed from them. And I think she's enjoying her mental institution because she gets attention and she gets to be free of having to care for them. Does that mean she couldn't have had moments of delusional stuff in the past? Sure. But I didn't see that evidence when she killed the children. And so personally, I think she got a good deal going to the mental institution. So you think she's going to get away with it? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But, especially the other thing that's kind of weird to me. These are children that are being killed. Babies and children that are being killed. And we as a society care way less about babies and children than we do about adults being murdered. When an adult is murdered, we hear a lot about it. But when you have a baby that's murdered by like the prom queen, and she like has the baby in the bathroom and chucks it into a trash can and it dies, we're like, oh, wait, we didn't know the baby, so it's just a little thing, and we let her off like the baby didn't matter. So we have this weird thing about children, especially the smaller the children are, the less we care about them. And yet these are the most vulnerable people in our society. They look at their mother or father, and you're the one who's caring for me, and now you're killing me. I think that should be the most despicable crime ever, and that should warrant probably the worst penalty ever. But for some reason, maybe because we all know that it's hard to raise children, it's really tiring. So we just go, okay, well, I guess this person just got really tired. I don't know. Oh, really? Interesting. Your doctor was on the panel that evaluated Yates. Was this after the fact or before the fact? I'd be curious about that. Because, saw his name in it. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I found it a little bit. I found a lot of her history kind of vague, and it always makes it sound like Rusty, was that his name, forced her to do all these things, and yet she was quite much a partner in making decisions about going to the church and where they lived, and he actually got her a house and everything. I don't think he was as bad a guy as people made him out to be. But should they keep having kids and it gets exhausting? No, maybe not. Maybe they should have stopped. And if she had some level of mental illness in which they're just exhausted and wasn't handling things well, yeah, they shouldn't have more babies. That's for damn sure. But I don't know that she was not a partner in making those decisions. Again, we love to say women have no agency for some reason, and I don't understand that, because on one hand, we think women have all the rights to make all their choices, but when they make choices, we say they didn't know what they were doing. It's kind of weird. Actually, people feel sorrier for killing. If a person kills an animal, they'll feel sorrier for that animal than they do for the baby. I swear to God, this is true. They will go berserk if somebody kills their puppy. Kills a baby, they're like, oh, maybe there was a reason for it. Maybe she just got tired. Maybe she just had postpartum depression. She couldn't help herself and she killed the baby. But she killed the puppy too? Oh no. It's kind of funny when you think about it. Yeah. But so very weird. But okay, you asked him, but he said she's where she needs to be. Well, she's in a mental institution and as opposed to a prison. And I think she's enjoying herself. As far as I know, she's having a pretty nice life there. Getting attention, getting 3 meals a day, getting attention, doing art, knitting, whatever the hell she's doing there. I mean, I'm not saying that it's preferable to live in a mental institution as opposed to living free. But surprisingly, some people really don't mind that because of the attention they get. And maybe, you know, to be free of marriage, to be free of taking care of all those kids, to get this, and she gets a lot of sympathy, you know, she does. But I'd be curious to. I said I couldn't find really good information about how she got diagnosed the way she got diagnosed, and some of it was just very hard to understand as far as where the truth lies on that case. But I don't think she was insane at the time she killed the children. That's the problem. She wasn't totally schizophrenic. It wasn't like she was out of touch constantly. She wasn't. And, that's one thing bothers me because I've worked in hospitals with schizophrenic patients. And my God, they're schizophrenic 24 hours a day. I mean, you're like, woo, they may not be killers, but they're just, they're, it. From the minute you meet them, you're just constantly, they couldn't take care of children if they tried. Andrew Yates seemed to be capable in many ways of taking care of kids and doing other things. And so I don't quite understand. There was one point where somebody said she's the sickest I've ever seen anybody. I'm like, what do you mean by that? What do you actually mean by that? I don't know. So, oh, really? Pat changed my mind on Yates. I bought into the victim narrative of the documentary. Yeah, I haven't looked at the case in a really long time. So, sometimes people say, well, Pat, why did you think this or that? I don't really remember because I'd have to go back and review everything all over again. So I'm not sure why I came to my conclusions back in the day. Oh, you thought they think I was abused by Rusty. Rusty really, I mean, he really did. That was I think a lot of the defense, that Rusty basically imprisoned her and the pressure he put her under caused her to lose her mind or something. Yes, that is also true, Clarissa. Having a mental illness doesn't make one insane. So the whole point is, when you commit a crime, if you know you're committing a crime, then you're not insane. You're not in psychosis. I don't think Andrea Yates was in psychosis when she killed those kids. I do not think so. I think she knew exactly what she was doing. She planned it just like Clancy. So, hold on a second. Oh. I heard crunching on the other side of the room, and I guess the cat came back and is eating on the other side of the room. Oh, changed your mind on Madeleine McCann. Yeah, okay. Well, that's a case. That's a case that will probably never be solved. So, oh, look, let's see. We had a guy in my town murder his wife with an axe, and his defense argues diminished responsibility because he was depressed. Well, diminished responsibility because you're depressed. If that were true, it would be half of the mates in the world would be done in. Again, it's just like the Menendez brothers. Just because your parents didn't, you say your parents did something to you when you were growing up. You're adults. You're adults. And rich adults, by the way. Rich adults that had a college education, all this kind of stuff going for them. Parents weren't going to kill them. Daddy wasn't going to come and kill them. He was he gave one kid money for a restaurant. The other kid has been in the tennis stuff. Nobody was hurting them at that point. So I absolutely believe the Menendez brothers simply killed their parents to get the money. I think the whole nonsense about, oh my God, we had self-defense and, even if some of what happened was true, it wasn't true at the time they killed their parents. So yeah, I think so too. Greedy. They're just greedy little. I definitely think Lyle is a psychopath and a half. And I think they're like a duo, the duo team where you got the lead one and then the follower, which would be Eric. So, they could have disappeared like thousands of abused kids. Yeah, well, especially since they had a lot going for them. And I point this out all the time with the Gypsy case, because people say, well, what about her? You give her a break. I'm like, Gypsy was literally imprisoned by her mother and physically tortured. And that's why she is stunted. She was physically, educationally, and emotionally stunted by her psychopathic Munchausen syndrome by proxy mother, year after year after year. And by the time she became adult, she had no way to escape. And she tried to escape, and her mother brought her back because her mother got like power of attorney over her because she was supposedly incapable of being on her own. And quite frankly, she was, because there was no way she was going to go out in the world and find a place to live and get a job. And she was totally stunted. And she didn't know how to get away from the mother. So she found a psychopath and good old Nick there. What a psychopath he is. And he'd like to rape and kill women. And it worked out well for her because he killed her mother for, and she went to prison, which she was not psychotic. She deserved to go to prison because she did essentially hire him to do it. And he needs to be in prison the rest of his life because he is a psychopath. But she's done her prison time and she's out. I don't say that she doesn't have a personality disorder. She's a messed up person. What she'll do with her messed up brain, I don't know. But unlike the Menendez brothers, she had no way to survive. They did. They were highly educated and wealthy. They, and there's, like, point out, there are many 18-year-olds who just go off in the world and get themselves a job and live on their own just because they don't want to live with mom and dad anymore. And here you have two kids who have everything, the silver spoon, and they can't do that. Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think being in prison was an advantage for her. I think that was actually like going away to boarding school for her. She finally got away from her mother, was in a boarding school, and she learned how to do stuff. And of course, she became, unfortunately, popular by again, here we go with the media. She became a media darling because she made money for people. So she's, making a fortune in, reality TV, which I think is highly unhealthy for her, but it does make her rich. So what will happen to her, I don't know. But I do think when people point out those two cases and say Gypsy deserved to be in prison for life and the Menendez brothers deserve to be out, I think they got that sucker backwards. So yeah. Yeah, Gypsy's a mess, but yeah, but she really, I don't know how she would have gotten away from that mother, to tell you the truth, because she was very emotionally stunted, and I say physically and everything. She was a mess, because that her mother was, she basically, and I think she suffered from Stockholm syndrome for many years. People say, well, she copied her the mother. Well, yeah, because it's called Stockholm syndrome. 100% Stockholm syndrome. And then she got to this point where she became a teenager and she wanted some freedom and she was trying to get away and she had no way to get away. So, not saying what she did was right. She went to prison for it, but I understand it. Whereas the Menendez brothers, I just think are psychopaths. That's an interesting. Her mother would have exited Gypsy stage left at some point. That is interesting. Depending how much she had control over her, how much she was getting out of the relationship, it's possible that she could have somehow Gypsy could have just not woken up one morning, and then she would have gotten a lot of sympathy for that. Yeah, possible. She could have ended up killing her. Hard to say. Okay, so anything? Let's see. It's about time for me to wrap up. In case you're wondering, the aura thing from my the migraine-y thing. I've only ever had one migraine in my life. It was horrible. I had the aura thing that's a little sparkly, like looks like the tail of a kite, and it starts out small, and then it gets kind of a curvy thing, and then it gets a bigger curvy thing. It goes on for about 30 minutes. I only ever had it turn into an actual migraine once, and then I spent the next rest of the day just lying on the bathroom floor throwing up, and I was miserable. It was absolute agonizing pain, and I never wanted to experience that again. And so, but I've had these aura things that as long as I drink a lot of water, take an Excedrin, it seems like it doesn't actually turn into a headache. But I go through about 30 minutes where my vision is impaired, and I'm trying to read the paper, and I'm trying to look at the pictures, and these, there's just this gets blocked out. I can't read it. So, but it is gone. So I'm feeling okay. But I don't know. I don't know what's causing it. I've had I've had like one a day for the last week, and I don't know what the heck the issue is. I'm trying to drink a lot of water because I think I'm dehydrated or something. I'm really not sure. And I haven't had this, and I usually have the problem looking at the screen. So maybe I'm using too much screen time, and it's triggering. But I don't know. Hopefully it'll just go away, and yeah. Oh, you get that too? You get visual migraines? Dr. Pepper. Oh, why would I want to do that? Well, that sounds disgusting. Go to the doc. Nah. What, the doc is not going to do anything for me. Nah. My neck is fine. Visual field test. No, my field test, it's fine. I don't have any problem with it. It's just for that moment I have that issue. Barometric pressures, sinuses, don't have a problem with that. I don't know. That's not, I like Pat's open letter to Gypsy. It was very moving. I don't doubt she ever even read it or heard about it, but I got a lot. The sad part was I got so much hate off of that letter from all the people that think that she made Nick kill her mother, and poor Nick, he shouldn't be in prison because Nick was just autistic. Autistic people everywhere should be angry. That's crazy, but that stuff. Flickering lights. Yeah, flickering lights. Yeah, no, I have a lot of caffeine. That's not an issue. Yeah, I don't know what's causing it this week. It's usually I get the aura thing like once every 3 months, but I've been getting it more recently, more recently, more often recently. Okay, now I can't talk. More often recently, and I'm not sure what's causing it. So I've worked on trying to change the screen, and I say I'm trying to drink more water. Because I may be dehydrated. I don't know. I'm hoping it'll just go away. Sometimes you just wait, and a couple of weeks later, you're like perfectly normal again, and you don't even know what the difference is. So that's what I'm hoping, because it's. I mean, I looked at TIAs, where there's little mini stroke type things, and the actual type of stuff I have does not represent that. So thank God for that, because I don't really want that, so that would be really scary. So I've tried the blue light glasses. I didn't have any luck with those, but I do think that's true. I think the screen, I wake up, and I've had them in the mornings too sometimes, because I just wake up and I think I'm like not sleeping well. So I look at my phone in the night, and then I wake up in the morning, I'm right on the iPad, starting to research and stuff. And it's the first time I've ever had it happen here. But again, I've got bright lights on me and the screen. So if I was already on the edge this morning, but we'll find out. Hopefully I'll take a few days of, what is it? Sunday I'll be back. So I have some work to do before Sunday. That is possible. That's a good point. Wait a minute. That's a great point, Clarissa. I have cataracts. There's no question. I've hit that age, and the doc told me, I've got my glasses and everything, but he did say probably by the end of August, I was going to see changes, and I need to get in and get the surgery done. But Medicare won't let you get the surgery until you're bad enough. And I have noticed changes recently, and maybe it is eye strain, because I feel like everything's a little off. That may be causing the migraines. That's very good. Thank you, doc. See, I don't have to go in now. But I do think I need to get that eye surgery. Oh, my mom has implantable lenses. She's thrilled. Supposedly it's a very simple surgery, but stink eye from Mac. Could be. Oh, you had cataract surgery. Oh, wait a minute. How'd it go? Is it gone well, Lady Jane? I know I have to get it done. I do. Soon, I guess, because maybe that is what's causing the stuff. And that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the only real change I know, is that I'm having trouble with, my vision is worsened since the last time I was out there. I know that I'm struggling more, especially at the computer. I have glasses for the trifocal, but I noticed that that's not quite right now, because my eyes have gotten just enough worse that I'm straining every time I look at the computer. Thank you. That was a good. See, all I need to do is talk to you guys. You solved my problem. That's logical conclusion. I like it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, well, cataracts have to be right before they deal with them, apparently. Apparently, that's not even true, but Medicare doesn't want to, they want to wait till you're miserable so before they'll kick in and pay for the. So sweet of them. Menopause messed up your vision? Really? Yeah, I liked menopause. It was great. Oh, that was the favorite thing that happened in my life. It was like one day I just was free of that horrible monthly issue, and I had no. You're gonna hate me for this, guys. Had no symptoms at all. Nothing. Didn't have hot flashes. Didn't have a change in my skin. Didn't have a change in anything. It just overnight it was just better. Don't you hate me? I know you hate me. That was the best thing that ever happened to me. Yeah, I was extremely lucky. Okay, it's like, yeah, it was so nice that they just went away. And then when I was traveling, I didn't have to worry about it anymore. So good. Oh, I didn't have any night sweats. I didn't have any hot flashes. You poor things. I just lucked out. I did. It was the freakiest thing because I was like waiting for something to happen. I'm reading all these things I'm supposed to get. I'm like, wow, none. And it's really strange. My sisters had them. I just never had them. So go figure. Yeah. So yes, it was freedom. For me, it was just freedom. I'm like, oh, thank God it's, I guess I always hated it. So, but we get lucky in one place and don't get lucky in another place. That's the way life goes. So anyway, wish you were me. Well, you could be me right now, and you could be having aura interfering with your brain, and that sucks. Oh, your mother went crazy. Oh, used to chuck whatever was in her hand at my phone. Maybe it was just an excuse. But I do know people struggle with, but I will say when I had periods when I was younger and was married, that I did become enraged during them. But then I was married, so when I wasn't around my husband, I didn't get enraged from those monthly times. Only when I was around him. Flying biscuits. Weren't there any appropriate dishes? They make better noise when they hit the wall. But I know they always say this crap. Look across. I've done that. I keep looking here and there and everywhere. I think it is the change in my eyes. I do think so. But yeah. So, but I think I'll have to just make my appointment and go in, and hopefully they'll decide I am now at a point where I can get the stupid surgery. But anyway, guys, that's it for now. I will see you all on Sunday. I have already picked out what I'm going to do on Sunday. So I'm going to talk about this case, which is, hold on, which is the case I'm going to talk about. I can't find it right now. So, but I think it's really interesting. So, it's what I'm going to do. So anyway, I'm glad you were here, Clarissa, and everybody else who's been here. Happy Friday. Well, not yet in Maryland, but tomorrow will be. So, thank you, Frida. I always love having you guys here. I really do. One of the complaints YouTubers always have is that they're lonely, because most YouTubers they don't do live shows. They do video only. And they do the videos by themselves. They edit by themselves. They put up by themselves. And I have you guys, and I appreciate that. You're my friends, and yeah, I look forward to being with you guys. So it's really nice. So good night, everybody. And I'm gonna go not look at a computer for a little while. See you later. Bye.